there is another step, and it's the last step of this process. This whole bucket has been, the reason why I do this is because stripping the rhubarb makes it go through the rollers a lot better, and the idea of the rollers is that a knife will chase the grain of the rhubarb rather easily, a lot easier than just cross-graining and letting it ferment and then have to separate it all out in a bag or a cloth or whatever. This part here is just like a really nice way to do this. So that was the last piece of that, and we're ready to go now. We've got to wash hands. And then we're rolling. And we want to see how this rhubarb juice is going to hit the jar. So we're going to watch that alignment for a second. Lots of juice coming off of this one. Okay, that looks good. Here we go. So we're just weaning, okay, so now we're actually putting the ingredients into the wine. Yesterday I lost a clip, and the clip showed that we had basically 2/3 of a gallon of juice rendered from the rhubarb stalks. So anyway, this is the book that I'm using and have used for several years for the rhubarb recipe. You can stop your video and write it all down. Maybe I'll put a PDF somewhere, I don't know. In yesterday's clip I did forget to tell you that these things are only used for wine. Like the buckets always and only have been used for wine, and I know they're just simple buckets that I could get at the hardware store or whatever, and they've been cleaned, but they're always only used for wine. I don't want any oils or other flavors transmitted in this thing, because it's a real labor to do this. So what we have today for the moment, and I will just show you for a second, but then I'll prepare this stuff for you too before we put it in for the absolute start. This is Camden. Comes in tablets. Smash it all up in the little grinder thing. And that's the last thing that goes in for the ingredients. It sterilizes everything. And by the way, this is the one ingredient that some people are actually allergic to. We have a friend that can't drink wine because of the ingredients in the Camden. And I forget what that's called. But anyway, Camden is what you put all your ingredients in, and you literally kill the wine for about 24 to 30 hours. Maybe even 36 hours is okay. And finally, in the end, you add your yeast. And this is a comparison to show you in 2014, we were doing the Loudland from Canada, and it shows upper left hand corner that yeast is gluten-free. And the red star, there's no indicator on whether or not it's a gluten-free product, and the result is good and everything, but it's hard to get some people enthused about wine that isn't gluten-free. If you put any traces of gluten into a wine, it sort of wrecks it for people who are gluten-free. So then, anyway, we're going to be adding an acid blend to neutralize the acid, and by the book, the calculations are fun. Wine tannin, which is a grape tannin. That's how it comes, what form it comes in. It could come under other labels. This is our local brewery shop. If you can catch that label, I don't know. Looks out of focus to me. At North Corner. And so they buy it in bulk and reduce it down, and for a couple bucks. And then we got to have the yeast nutrient, and that comes under two. One is Brewcraft, and the other is North Corner for their bulk. But the nutrients help everything get going. Next good thing for 5 gallons of wine, if we have 14 pounds of rhubarb, you're going to have to use 14 pounds of sugar. And just for the fun of it, sugar comes in 10-pound bags or 4-pound bags, so then there's nothing left over. Anyway, I'll get all this stuff mashed up. You'll watch me throw it in and mix it up for the first 30 hours of its life. Okay, here we go. Yeah, you didn't see me put the water in, but I use 1 gallon jugs of water to count out the water, because they're the jugs I use to store it in, and what goes in comes out. Anyway, so I'm going to add the sugar. The other sugar. Some of the recipes for this stuff, they like you to drop the sugar in the dry mix of rhubarb to soak up the juice, but we've already done that. So then here's our grape tannin, our neutralizer, our acid blend, all that stuff goes in too. Just like that, and then let's stir it a little bit. Shouldn't need a lot of stirring, it just kind of sits on the surface. Some of the sugars are already headed for the bottom. This is my spoon that I bought. It's an oak spoon. I don't like any kind of wood to mess with my wine, but I do know that wine is cured in oak, and that's why we use the grape tannin instead of curing or aging. We don't have oak here, but my tools are oak. I guess that makes sense, doesn't it? Okay, that's it for now. Except for the camden, we can add that now. And that's got our main ingredients, and we just want to add the camden to just keep any other kind of yeast from growing in this wine. And my other thing was, I wanted to say maybe someday I'll just decide to use 1 jug of juice, of rhubarb juice, for 5 gallons of wine, rather than going through the issues of separating out the rhubarb stalks later on, which you'll see me do. And that's ready for 30 hours of rest. Wouldn't that sound good? Okay.